3 bodies discovered in rural southern Colorado. A suspect is on the loose.
He goes by Psycho. He should be considered at this time armed and dangerous.
Colorado Congressman Doug Lamborn tests positive for COVID-19. Staffers previously suggested he wasn't taking the virus seriously.
Educators react to the governor pushing for some schools to keep in-person classes going.
Real estate agents are sounding the alarm of a mass exodus to the suburbs. The data tells a different story.
To the extent that people are leaving the city, these are mostly people who would have left the city anyway.
And we go 360 on downtown Denver and whether COVID and civil unrest really do have it down for the count.
It just doesn't really give you a sense that this is a place you want to come hang out with your family.
I don't see this as being something that's going to signal the end of the era of the city.
3 bodies, 2 locations, and a suspect nicknamed Psycho. For months, CBI has been working something big in the San Luis Valley, and tonight they're letting the rest of us in on it. Good evening. Glad you're with us tonight. I'm Shannon Ogden.
And I'm Ann Trujillo. The CBI's investigation centers on at least 2 properties near Los Sauces, about 30 minutes south of Alamosa in Conejos County. And that is where we find Denver7's Lance Hernandez tonight. And Lance, some in the media have characterized this as a serial killing. You found, though, police are not going there.
Well, investigators say they're not speculating on what kind of case this is right now, other than homicide. They say it's too much early in the process to know much more than that. Now, CBI and investigators from surrounding law enforcement agencies are still on the scene tonight, cataloging evidence, keeping an eye on the property here. They arrived at this scene last week with a search warrant. That search warrant looking for some stolen equipment. That's when they found the gruesome discovery, the human remains. They then went to a nearby property and found more human remains. The big question tonight, who are the victims? Several people have been reported missing in southern Colorado. CBI Director John Camper says they don't know yet if there's any connection between this discovery and missing person cases in Alamosa or Monte Vista.
But ultimately, there are a few families who will eventually be told that these remains are that of their loved one. And then there are a lot of families that will be told that they are not. In either scenario, it's a traumatic blow.
Now take a look at this man. This is Audrey Jordan Barros. He is the suspect in this case. Authorities say their #1 goal is to get Barros off the street. He is considered armed and dangerous. They're asking for help trying to find that man. If you know his whereabouts, contact police. They're setting up a tip line. We'll have that number on our website. In Conejos County, Lance Hernandez, Denver7.
Thank you, Lance. Colorado Congressman Doug Lamborn has tested positive for the coronavirus, and this news comes a day after his colleague at Perlmutter received the same diagnosis. A spokesperson tells Denver7 Lamborn is currently experiencing mild symptoms and isolating at his home in Colorado Springs. Now, in early October, the Denver Post reported that 2 of Lamborn's Washington, D.C. staff had the virus, but that their boss was still attending fundraisers and still refusing tests.
Another 25 deaths attributed to COVID-19 this evening here in Colorado. 4,600 additional cases reported by the state today. Just under 1,600 people are in the hospital. 3 out of 10 facilities anticipate being short on staff within the next week, and 1 out of 10 expects to run out of room in the ICU.
The Denver Public Library, a Goodwill in Greeley, and a CrossFit studio in rural Montezuma County among the latest to be considered COVID outbreak sites. The state right now lists 959 active outbreaks. The majority are at nursing homes and at schools. And because of our failure to contain the virus, restaurants all over the Denver metro will close indoor dining Friday. And for some businesses, this is going to be the nail in the coffin.
Some are going even further. They'd have you believe that Denver as a whole is at death's door and that downtown won't last the winter.
Now, others insist reports of Denver's demise have been greatly exaggerated. Our Russell Haythorne heard from all of them, and tonight he's going 360.
How things are looking. It's been said behind every great restaurant is a great chef.
Just silly work.
Culinary mastermind Jennifer Jasinski has kept Rioja in Larimer Square at the top of Denver's dining scene for 16 years now. But even Rioja's success is in jeopardy.
9 exhausting months is probably about the right term.
Every day brings a new struggle.
We're trying to adapt and stay alive.
The ongoing pandemic and instability downtown is slowly sucking the life out of some of Denver's finest small businesses.
I'm one of those believers in the power of positive energy, but some days it is very tough. You know, the 25% restriction and now the 10 o'clock curfew.
Downtown's seemingly endless economic tailspin is the subject of news story after news story, and even a recent hour-long documentary called Denver in Decay. But is it really the end of an era or just a temporary COVID-induced ghost town?
What is the future?
We're going 360 with an urban planner and urban centers expert, the Downtown Denver Partnership, hotels, restaurants, real estate experts, and we start with Katie Jacina, who has lived downtown for a few years, but recently decided to move on, listing and selling her downtown loft.
My husband ended up having to start to work from home as well. And the only closed off space we really had was like the closet and the bathroom.
So they resorted to taking work calls in the closet. Katie says that was it. They needed something more spacious.
We found this like 1968 split level. That split level garden has a bedroom and a bathroom and a wet bar and a whole little living room. It's just the right move.
Katie's realtor, Lori Abbey, says it's a real shift in mindset. More and more young people fleeing downtown.
I've sold more homes in Arvada, Lakewood, Golden than I have in any time in the past to kids from the ages of 25 to 35.
A downtown downturn.
You're seeing condos sitting for longer than they ever have. You're seeing condo prices go down.
Realtor Chad Nash says look around. Shops boarded up, restaurants closing, office workers nowhere to be found.
On the practical level, you have the job front. People don't need to be at the core of downtown. Their work is not happening downtown anymore.
Nash says while there is genuine fear about downtown, some of the safety issues are misguided and exaggerated.
Leading up to election season, there was a lot of fear mongering around messaging of the urban core. You see the protests. And that plays in folks' minds.
Urban planning expert Jamie Gillis says not only does downtown look unsafe, it feels unsafe.
Boards over all the windows, and it just doesn't really give you a sense that this is a place you want to come hang out with your family.
She says while other cities like Las Vegas, Nevada, and London, England are addressing the COVID-related shutdowns head-on, Denver is turning a blind eye.
There is no plan. That lack of honesty and transparency and having a conversation with the community about the realities we're facing is happening elsewhere. And I can say that because I'm working elsewhere. Will these commercial buildings become residential? Will anybody want to live downtown?
Abby says not at the moment.
And the thought of a crowded bar and crowded streets and people getting shot downtown and all these things happening, it's absolutely shifting.
There's a shift in tourism too. Those in the hospitality industry like Kevin Bird say hotels don't stand a chance until conventions return.
Colorado Convention Center, Downtown Convention Center, when you're not having those size groups, I mean, it really impacts. Maybe the people aren't putting on the conventions, don't feel comfortable of having 1,000 people there. You know, is it worth it to have 300 people there?
There is hope.
I don't see this as being something that's going to signal the end of the era of the city.
DU professor and urban centers expert Andrew Getz says the decline will sting for months to come.
Certainly for this year and probably next year.
He says there's no question the work from home phenomenon and need for space will be a boom for the burbs. But as the theater, professional sports, and conventions return, so too will the people.
Cities will eventually come back.
That's what the ever-optimistic Downtown Denver Partnership is banking on.
We've got sort of gazebo kind of features here. We've got tents here, so it's kind of fun.
They're hoping innovation in dining and shopping experiences will still attract you to downtown this holiday season.
We certainly respect what the governor and the mayor are looking to try to achieve to keep us all safe. At the same time, we've got to balance the economics of this and find ways to maintain a healthy, dynamic space.
They're even planning a different kind of parade of lights.
This year, the parade will be static, will be in place, and the people will be walking by.
With the promise of a vaccine on the horizon, Nash and others are betting big on an eventual return.
It's hard to suggest that we are at the end of urban living.
Chazinski is doubling down on her business, even installing a new air filtration system.
It kills 99.4% of all germs and it circulates every 30 minutes.
And for those not comfortable dining in at the moment,
We have a beautiful Thanksgiving meal if you want to take it home to cook at home.
in downtown,
Stay healthy, stay safe, do the right thing,
Russell Haythorne,
and then we can all get through this faster.
Denver7.
And now a bonus perspective for you. Jeff Andrews is a journalist who has written about urban flight, or the myth thereof. Two big reasons he's not buying reports of mass exodus. One, the data just isn't there. Only San Francisco and Manhattan are seeing people leave in excessive numbers, and that's largely because of how expensive it is to live in those cities. And then two, the narrative of families fleeing for the suburbs is often driven by real estate agents who have an interest in having you believe the market is headed in a certain direction.
I want to lead off by saying realtors are not bad people. I don't think they're doing anything pernicious, but what they are is they're salespeople. They are trying to sell a product, and they are going to latch on to whatever narrative helps them sell that product. The suburbs are hot. Get in while you can. Mortgage rates are low. There's a lot of competition. If you want to do this, you got to do it right now. That's the kind of narrative that a realtor is going to latch on to.
And Andrew says tales of a hot market have worked to some extent. Young families are taking the plunge now and moving years earlier than expected. And expected is the key word here. Andrew says these are the kind of people who are always destined to leave the big city for the wide expanses of suburban life.
All right, on Tuesday, we asked for your opinions on whether the governor is doing too much or too little managing the crisis, and the response really was overwhelmingly positive for Mr. Polis. Sheila summed up the majority's take, and she writes, I think Governor Polis does a terrific job. He's been strict about mandates for behavior during this craziness. Trouble is, no one likes having to follow someone else's rules. So we're still taking comments, by the way. Keep them coming. 360@thedenverchannel.com is the email address. Facebook and Twitter work too.
Ahead, schools react to Governor Polis's plea to keep in-person learning going.
I believe that Governor Polis is doing the best that he can with the information he has in front of him.
It was back to the 70s today, but there's a chilly change as we head toward the weekend.
And what's next for CSU after the Rams are again forced to cancel a game?